Okay, hey guys, welcome to another P.O.R.A class. So today I'm going to be going over chapter 1. I'm just going to open the Google Docs. We're going to get right into it. I hope you all got a chance to read the chapter, and there'll be another one uploaded around Sunday night, I want to say Monday morning, to get started on that as soon as you can. Remember not to fall too far behind. You really want to be reading it. They're not long, and don't just rely on the explanations that I'm going to give you today to basically be just the only way you learn. You really want to take notes and jot down stuff in your notebook so that you have a better idea of, what you're going to be doing on the test and what kind of questions you think you should be asking me, all that kind of stuff. You really need to ask me those questions as soon as you can. So at the end of this video, if you have a question, drop a comment down and I will answer it as soon as I can. All right. So hopefully you've all gotten to read the chapter. Let's just talk about this. In this chapter, you will learn. You will talk about the goals for your students, the pros and cons of freestyling, basic teacher roles and responsibilities. All right. So the first section we have here, primary goals for your students, section 1. So, basically, this is a breakdown of the things you should be focusing on depending on the age of your students. Now, I want to really get you to understand what I mean by that. Most classes are broken down by skill level. It is really frowned upon to break down your classes based upon age. Okay? The reason why I say that is because some young kids are really talented. They're advanced level. Okay, they're rare to find, but there are cases. The best case in point to bring up is myself. Okay, I remember I was 4 years into dance, and they moved me up. Okay, they moved me up to the next level. They skipped a couple of levels because I took private lessons and I did all those types of things that helped me get to that point. You'll have students like that. So if you're talking about keeping them in certain groups just based off their age, they're not going to want to stay there. They're going to be bored out of their mind. And you don't want to push kids. You don't necessarily want to push kids to the next level if they're not ready, especially if you don't have a lot of levels. So for example, if you're in a school, if you're teaching at a school that has beginner, intermediate, and advanced, that's it. You don't want to push that kid that's in intermediate to advanced too fast. You really want to make sure that they really fit in with everybody else. Why? Because they could be in intermediate level at 8 years old and doing well. They're not ready for advanced. They're going to be in that advanced class for years. Okay? And they're going to get bored. So you really want to be smart about how you divide up classes and how you determine where a kid should be. Really assessing their level, okay? There's different reasons why you put kids in advanced classes. There's different reasons why you put students in beginner levels. So you really want to really have a good good understanding of the kids' skill level, okay? You really don't want to throw them anywhere. So here we're talking about things you should be focusing on developmental wise. What I mean by that is, although these kids might be in all different types of levels, different age groups, they might be in different levels. We're not talking about what you should be focusing on in that level. We're talking about what you should be focusing on at that age. Okay? Why? Because there's a certain expectation that people have, that the industry has for you at a certain age. There's certain things you should know. There's certain behaviors you should have picked up by a certain age, okay? So when I'm saying, okay, we're talking about 8-year-olds, that 8-year-old could be in the beginner class, but you still want to focus on this specific thing. You get what I'm saying? So we're not talking about the level yet. We're talking about the age and where they are mentally in their brain and what you should focus on. So I talked about the ages 2 to 3. Okay, understand that ages 2 to 3, your students do not have the capacity, most of them, I'm not going to say everybody, don't have the capacity to understand or remember everything. What they should be focusing on is falling in love with dance class. Okay? You want them to like the idea of coming to class on Saturday or whatever day and having fun. You want them to start to learn how to operate in a classroom. A lot of kids, 2 to 3 years old, they go to daycare, maybe preschool or whatever, and they don't really, they're learning how to function with other kids. They're learning how to behave. They're learning basic skills. Okay? They're not going to remember every single dance step or every single term you give them. They're not going to know how to do everything. So what are you focusing on as a teacher? I want to focus on getting them to have a little bit of a memory. I want them to know how to interact with students, and I want them to enjoy themselves. That's very simple. Okay? That's a very simple job when you're dealing with that age group. And you can't expect too much from them. You can't push them too hard or they will never enjoy coming to dance class. Okay? So let's move on. Why does this keep going up? Okay. Number 2. Girls and boys ages 3 to 5. Get your students to participate in class and perform on stage. So here we're thinking about, they're building up their memory a little bit. Okay, they probably are enrolled in kindergarten, preschool, or whatever. So they're learning how to read, how to write, how to do different types of things, how to count. Now you want them to be brave enough to get up on the stage, and that's it. You can't expect them to remember their dance. You can't expect them to, you know, be independent like that. But you want to test the waters and you want to see if they like it. Okay, that's when you kind of get an idea of, where they're going to go next year, if they're going to continue to do this. This is a very important age group to get kids to commit to coming to dance class. If they like it at this age, they will continue to do it, okay? This is a good age to get them focused and get them a little bit more disciplined, and then eventually, as years go down the line, they'll understand that they have to work hard and they have to try hard and all that stuff. So you want to get them to get out on that stage and to be brave, all right? Don't expect that they're going to do their whole dance by themselves. Absolutely not. But you want to kind of test the waters a little bit, okay? So that's really pretty much it for this group. Moving on to number 3. Girls and boys 6 to 10 of all genres. Get your student to understand the difference between good and bad technique. Now, some of you might think, what? We're supposed to teach this to a 6 to 10-year-olds? Yes, this is like a crucial. This is probably the most important age group. Why? This is when they begin to get a better memory. Okay, this is when they begin to actually understand that they're going to work a little hard. And this is when you're going to be able to tell if they're going to be good or not. Straight like that. You're going to tell if your student is a hard worker or if they really love what they're doing, and you're going to be able to tell all of that in this age range. You want them to begin to learn good habits now, before they're teenagers. Probably some of you, including myself, didn't focus on technique until what, 13 to 15 years old? That's late. That's very late. You want to be able to focus on the basic correct technique so that by the time you're 15, 16 years old, you don't have these bad habits that are almost impossible to break. Okay? Yes, the kids will pick up bad habits. It's going to happen. But you want to be, as a teacher, you want to be able to correct it now. Nobody wants to see a 10-year-old dance with turn-in feet, and they don't like it. You want to focus on that technique. You want to tell them the right way to do it. Tell them that there's a right way and there's a wrong way to do things. And eventually, when they get older, they will remember that and keep it in their brains for when they're older and they're doing harder things. They'll know how to correct themselves, how to get better at certain things. This is a very important age range, to be honest with you. You really want to focus on getting them to understand that there's a difference between good and bad technique. Okay? So I would highlight this in your notes and really understand that this is probably one of the most important stages. Okay? Moving on. Why does it keep going up? I don't know. All right, 11 to 15 years old, all genres, boys and girls. Get your dancers to establish a personality. Now, of course, all of these are very important steps and different important, very important age groups. Now, this is probably the most difficult. Now that your dancer has a little bit more independence, they kind of don't need you to hold their hand for every little thing. You want them to dance from their heart with their good technique, with their good memory of learning choreography. You want them to be able to emote. You want them to be able to be more mature as a dancer. Okay? You want them to be able to, you know, understand a story. Understand that you have to portray a character. Understand that it's not just about steps. That's what this is all about. Once they get to this age range, they got to realize it's not just about learning the counts and learning the steps and all that stuff. I need to be able to perform. I need to be able to touch somebody in the audience, okay? So this is something you really want to focus on with all the other things that they've learned, okay? You really want them to become the all well-rounded dancer. And that's like the cherry on top to make a good dancer and good performer. All right, moving on. Number 5, girls and boys ages 16 to 18 of all genres to master advanced level technique and challenging choreography. All right, so at this point, you want to be able to challenge your student. You want them to understand that every piece of choreography is not going to be easy, that you're going to have to really work hard to really get those challenging pieces, those pieces that make you say, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just did that. You know what I'm saying? That's where you want them to go, because now they're striving towards number 6 to get professional work. And most professional jobs will require a level of difficulty that you don't experience at your dance school. That's the honest truth. A company and a average dance school's level of difficulty is very different. Okay? So when you go to a company, you get a choreographer who's been probably doing this for years, years and years and years. And once a choreographer has been doing this a long time, they start to challenge themselves. And when they challenge themselves, it becomes more challenging for the dancer. So this is what you're preparing them for number 6, to get professional work. Okay? And you already know that at this point, you know, they'll be graduating from high school or whatever, and they're trying to find jobs and they're trying to get into programs. You really want to be encouraging towards those students. You want to really focus on how can I make you, you know, presentable to these people who didn't know you this whole time. Okay? Now you're trying to say, listen, I've worked with you for thus and so amount of years. Now I want you to be able to go out there in front of people who do not know you and stun them the way that I am impressed with you. Okay? That's a very hard thing to do, because you can love your student, but nobody else loves your student. Okay? You want to really work on them so that other people can enjoy them as well. And that's very challenging, but you always want to have this in the focus throughout all the other years, if that makes sense. You got to think of it as when they're in that 10 years old stage, and you got to see their future for them. You have to say, can they be professional? You got to work on them from there to them for them to get to this point. Okay? If you focus on them like that, then you're straight. Okay? You're set. And number 7 is, you know, women and men 20 and up for recreational fitness purposes of all genres. Understand the fundamentals of dance, get exercise, get back into dance, have fun dancing. It could be a lot of different reasons for it, okay? Section 2. Preparation. Understand that preparation is number one when being a teacher. Why? Because your students really can feel when you're not prepared. Your students can tell when you don't know what you're talking about. Your students can detect it. So you're not going to pull one over on them, especially the smart ones. Okay, so you need to be able to do your research, and you need to be able to sit down at given whatever time of the week that you set aside to plan your lesson. You must plan. Now, does that mean that everything is going to go the way you planned? Absolutely not. 9 times out of 10, when I plan something, I don't get to everything in my plans. But guess what? I'm much more prepared. I'm not trying to scramble for combos. I'm not trying to figure out, oh, what am I going to do? Blah, 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 blah. You need to be able to know what you're going to do way before class starts. I would give yourself a week to sit on those plans. All right. When I plan for the company, I plan in advance, and I give myself 2 weeks, I think. So whatever we're gonna do on Friday, I know that by at least 2 weeks prior, because things change. And for example, if I see that at the week before we're not ready to do those things, then I change my plans. Okay, things change, so you need to give yourself time to understand the changes. Okay, so preparation is key, and we're gonna be next week when we go live, I'm gonna be writing down my version of a class. Okay, how I write down my classes, and hopefully you learn a lot about like how you should be writing in your notebook and how you should be taking down your notes. Everybody's different. Everybody remembers things differently, but it's a really good idea to jot down things that are really important for your classes, and just be organized. Be prepared and be organized. And we'll talk more about that down the line when we get more into specifics of how to prepare for your class. But I just want you to know that you have to do it. It's not an option, and you don't really get to the point of freestyling and doing all of that stuff until later down the line. And usually when I try to do it, it doesn't go over smoothly. But just know that you need to prepare for class, and there's pros and cons to freestyling and to writing things down, and we'll get more into that. First, important roles as a teacher. Now this section is like the most important section of this whole entire chapter. So when you get your notes, you put a big star next to this, because when you have your little quiz, exam, test, whatever, I'm going to be focusing a lot on this. Okay, because this is something that every student gone teacher needs to get through their skulls. Okay, this is number one for me. Me, the dancer, is way different than me, the teacher. Way different. Two different people. Okay, two different people. Me, the student, and some of you have been in classes with me. Me, the student, I'm very quiet. I don't talk. I do a lot of thinking. I do a lot of concentrating. I don't, I'm very focused on what I'm doing. Me, the teacher, I'm loud, okay? I'm energetic. I talk a lot. Yeah, I'm like a complete opposite. But what is most important about me as the teacher than me as a student is that I'm not focused on me as a teacher. If you're a teacher, you are not thinking about yourself at any point. At any point. You have to completely become unselfish. Okay? You have to understand that as a teacher, it's not about you. And it says it right there. You got to understand that as you're growing into becoming a teacher, you got to do whatever it takes to give your students the proper education they need. Okay? You don't hold back at all. You do whatever, and I mean whatever it takes to give these students the best education you possibly can give them. You tell them whatever they need to hear in order for them to succeed. All right? That's your job. That's what the parents want to see, is how you completely minimize yourself and give your students everything they possibly can have. All right? And they will definitely benefit from it. Okay? I also have here, their success is your success and their failures are your failures. Meaning, whatever your students do in that classroom and on that stage is a reflection of you as a teacher. If your kid's gone on stage and they don't know anything, that's your fault. Okay? Don't care if the kid is bad. Don't care if the kid is good. It's your fault. Why is it your fault? Well, what steps did you take to get them to do what they got to do? I've had bad students, bad, I mean real bad, get up on stage and impress their parents because they can't even get them to act right. I've had students with disabilities get up on stage and completely shock their parents. All right? Because I gave them 110% and I would come out of class exhausted. Like I just fought somebody. That's how tired I would be. But that's your job as a teacher. Nothing else but to give your students 100%. All right? I'm going to leave our lesson at that. I hope you answer some of these questions and I will go over the answers to these questions. Um, let's see. I'll probably go over them next week during our live class. All right? So everybody, I hope you drop down those questions that you might have. Let me know, and I'll talk to you later.